Think medieval life was all knights and castles. Nope. Most days started with wet socks and grumpy geese. The truth, most people back then didn't battle dragons. They battled soggy boots, burnt porridge, and a fire that refused to start. It wasn't epic, it was ordinary, and kind of beautiful in its own quiet way. I make slow history stories, soft-spoken, detail-rich, and cozy enough that thousands have drifted off listening. In the next few minutes, you'll step into a real morning in a medieval village. Frost on the ground, porridge by the fire, and tiny winds that felt like triumphs. No stress, no drama, just a gentle story to end your day. Over 500,000 people have found comfort in these quiet stories. No music, no jump cuts, just simple moments told slowly. So if you need a softer way to end the day, go ahead, tap like, maybe subscribe, and let's take one slow breath back in time. You lift the bucket. It's heavier than you remember. Your grip slips slightly, enough to slosh water down your sleeve. You mutter a word your mother wouldn't like. The goose by the fence eyes you, offended. It always looks offended, even when it's fed, especially when it's fed. You carry the bucket carefully, stepping over the rut in the path. Your boots squelch. The frost has turned the yard to sponge. By the time you reach the door again, your toes are wet, and your mood wetter. Inside, the hearth is still cold. You set the bucket down with a soft thud, wipe your hands on your tunic, and crouch. The flint is near the ashes, where you left it. You strike it once, twice. The spark skips. You try again, and finally, a catch. A whisper of flame curls around the dry bark you tucked away yesterday. Victory, small, but hard-earned. The fire grows. The room responds. It feels like the house exhales. You do too. You feed the flame carefully, one twig at a time. The light flickers across rough walls, low beams, and the bundle of herbs your sister hung last week to dry. They haven't dried. They're just hanging there like regret. The room brightens. You stand, stretch, hear the vertebrae in your back pop like old knuckles. In the corner, someone stirs. Your little brother, still bundled in the same blanket he wet through last winter and refused to part with. He groans. Then, is it morning? You grunt. That's answer enough. He flops back down. Smart, but not helpful. You cross to the table and begin your morning task. Oats. From the wooden bin, you scoop a handful. You drop it into the small iron pot and add a ladle of cold water from the bucket. Set it near the fire, not too close. You've learned that lesson. Burnt oats are a crime, and not just by medieval standards. You stir slowly, listening to the spoon scrape against the metal. It's a sound older than songs. The porridge bubbles. You add a pinch of salt, not because you're fancy, but because plain oats taste like punishment. Your brother sits up, hair sticking in every direction. You making the good kind? You snort. There's no good kind. He shrugs. Still better than nothing. Fair. You ladle some into a wooden bowl. Pass it to him. He takes it with both hands like it's gold. You make a second bowl for yourself. Blow on it. Taste. It's hot and bland and oddly comforting. You eat, slowly, each bite a reminder that your teeth are still holding up. Outside, the light is changing. A soft smear of yellow creeps in through the shutter gap. The village is waking. You hear hooves on dirt, a wheel creak, voices. Someone's already calling for help with a stuck cart. You sip the last of the water from the ladle and glance toward the door. Time to go. You pull on your cloak, thick, itchy, reliable. Grab the basket from its nail and step back out into the morning. Today, there's wool to card, tools to mend, a roof to patch before the next rain. You sigh, but you move, because life here doesn't wait for your mood to catch up. You pass your neighbor's fence. He's already outside, poking the frost with a stick, like it might change its mind. He nods. You nod back. That's enough talk for now. The sky is paler now. The crows are louder, and the chores are patient, but not polite. You head toward the commons. The cold nips your nose. Your hands find your belt for warmth. The rooster, bless him, crows a fourth time. You don't flinch this time. You're awake now, awake in a world of mud and fire and quiet triumphs. And as your boots crunch forward, you know the day has truly begun. You open your eyes, not to the sun, but to the smell. Damp wool, cooling ash, and the faint hint of someone nearby who ate onions last night. The room is dim, not dark, not bright. Just that soft gray of pre-dawn when the world hasn't decided what color it wants to be yet. You hear breathing, several sets, slow, shallow, your family, still curled on mats and straw, each bundled under blankets that itch but warm. Your back aches, as always. The straw beneath you has shifted again. Someone must have borrowed a fistful in the night. You stretch a little and instantly regret it. Something pops in your shoulder, probably not fatal. From the other corner of the room, a quiet snore, the kind that almost sounds like a distant sawmill. Your partner, still deep in sleep. You don't wake them, because it's your turn. Today, you're first. A chore lottery you always seem to win. You slip from the blanket. The floor is cold stone, rubbed smooth by generations of bare feet before yours. Your toes curl instinctively. Then you breathe in again. That same blend of wood smoke, wool, and... is that turnip? Likely. You step carefully, dodging the slumped figure of your youngest, who's half off their mat and holding a potato like it's a prized toy. You reach for your tunic. It's folded, sort of, more like draped across the foot of the bench. You shake it once, in case of spiders. It's a habit, not a superstition. Mostly, you tug it over your head, wincing at the scratch of the fabric. Then your belt, a thick strip of leather, softened over years of use, marked with the faint impressions of where tools once hung. You tighten it one notch too far, not for fashion, just to feel like something's in control. Your partner stirs, murmurs something that sounds like "don't forget the bucket." You won't. You always remember the bucket. You step outside. The door creaks like an old man with opinions. Outside, the air is thick, moist. You half expect to chew it. Mist curls low along the dirt path, winding between huts and fences. Trying to decide where to go next, you follow the path, bucket in hand, past the cooper's house, past the cart that's always broken, yet never moved. A rooster somewhere yawns in crow form. You ignore it. Ahead, the well waits. Or rather, the queue at the well. Two neighbors are already there. One's barefoot. The other carries a baby wrapped in cloth so layered it resembles a sack of grain more than a child. They nod at you. You nod back. No one speaks yet. It's not time for words. You wait your turn. The bucket dips. The rope creaks. Water sloshes. You sip from your cupped hands first. Cold, metallic, vaguely ancient. Then you fill your pail. The baby sneezes. You flinch like it was a threat, but it just gurgles and goes back to chewing its fingers. You walk back slowly. The sun hasn't risen, but the mist begins to glow slightly, like a lantern behind gauze. You reach your home. Inside, someone has stirred the embers. The fire winks at you lazily from its nest. You hang the kettle, grain and water, and a pinch of salt. If you're lucky, The porridge begins its slow, sullen simmer. A child sits up, hair wild as bramble. They ask if it's Sunday. You lie and say yes, because you know they'll eat more willingly if they think it's special. You hear coughing from the next house. Someone hawks, spits. The village orchestra warming up. Another child wakes, this one crying. Your partner scoops them up with the practiced rhythm of sleep deprivation. They kiss your cheek without looking. You smile without saying anything. The spoon clinks the pot. Steam curls upward. It smells like glue and hunger. You love it anyway, because it's warm and predictable and yours. You ladle it out into wooden bowls, each carved with years of bite marks and burn spots. The children eat like they've never seen food. You watch them and pretend not to count the mouthfuls, one bowl set aside. For the oldest, already out tending sheep with the neighbor boy. You wonder if they remembered to bring the cloak. You hope so. You refill the kettle, this time with a handful of dried herbs, not for health, for taste. Mint, if you're lucky. Stems and leaves, if you're not. You sip first. It burns, slightly. Perfect. Your second child's boots are wet. Again. You don't ask how. You don't want to know. You just set them near the fire and offer your own. They grumble, but take them. You ruffle their hair. It smells like straw and sleep. Back at the hearth, your partner is stirring again. They're adding herbs to the pot. The scent of thyme drifts upward, briefly disguising the porridge's natural gloom. You nod. This, too, is love. The neighbor by the fire sighs deeply. Says something about the tanner's apprentice sleeping through first bell. Again, you nod. Again, the bowl is empty now. You set it aside. Outside, the mist has begun to lift. A rooster flaps its wings and declares itself emperor of the village. No one listens. The bell tower creaks. Just once. Not a peal. A warning. A beginning. You tighten your belt. You open the door and step into another day you didn't choose. But you carry with a quiet kind of pride. There's a reason the village broom looks like it's older than your grandfather. Because it might be. The bristles are bent. The handle has been patched 3 times with rawhide and stubbornness, and the straw smells faintly of ashes, cabbage soup, and old potatoes. But it still sweeps, and in the hands of someone half awake and barefoot, it performs its daily ritual. Slow arcs across the earthen floor, brushing away yesterday's crumbs and soot. You move the broom methodically, tracing the same lines you've traced every day since the thaw. The hearth gives a soft wheeze of smoke as you pass. Like it, too, is not quite ready for this hour. A lopsided stool gets nudged aside. A wooden spoon, dropped yesterday and forgotten, clinks faintly as the broom discovers it under the edge of the table. In this space, sound is ceremony, a soft rhythm of living. Outside, roosters crow like poorly tuned horns. You pause for a moment, leaning on the broom handle, and glance toward the small window. Really just an open square with a hide flap. The sky is still dark, but softening at the edges. You sweep on. The dust rises, dances briefly, then settles again, like always. You lift the iron kettle by its handle, careful not to slosh the leftover broth inside. It's lukewarm at best, but enough to begin the day. You place it over the fire pit, which is still more ash than flame, and reach for the tinder box. The flint is cold, stubborn. Like everything else this morning, it takes 3 tries, a muttered prayer, and one accidental curse before a small tongue of flame licks upward from the kindling. You cradle it with dried moss and patience. Finally, The fire catches. It crackles like it has something to prove. You feed it carefully. Dry twigs. A split log from the stack near the door. The room shifts. Light and heat pushing gently into the gloom. You sit back for a second, cross-legged on the cool dirt, and watch the flame glow against the soot-black stones. It smells like comfort, like every morning of your life. You take a sip from a wooden cup left beside the hearth. Flat, tepid, a hint of mint. Maybe, but it wets your throat, and that's enough. You glance toward the small cloth bundle hanging by the fire. Dried herbs, not medicine, not yet, but ready when someone inevitably starts coughing again. The fire hisses. It approves. On the bench near the hearth, the bread dough sits beneath a cloth that smells faintly of last season's onions. It has not risen. Neither have you. Properly. Your back protests as you lean to check the texture. It feels like ambition. Stiff, uncertain, and half-formed. But you shape it anyway. You dust the workbench with flour that clumps in the morning damp. Your fingers press into the dough with practiced familiarity, turning it into something that resembles hope. They say the baker's blessing is warm hands. Yours feel more like stone. Still, the dough responds. Slowly, you form it into rounds. Nothing fancy, no braids, no knots, no feasts today. Just 2 small loaves, enough to trade for eggs or patch a neighbor's kindness. You wrap them in a cloth and place them in the wicker basket near the door. Outside, the first bell of the forge rings. Tinny, uneven, but unmistakable. You glance toward the rafters where a bit of smoke coils upward, escaping the chimney's lazy draw. You whisper to the dough like an old friend, "Be kind to me today." And for a brief moment, it listens. You cover the basket and gather your shawl. There's warmth in that basket. Not much, but enough to carry forward. The door creaks as you open it, letting in a breeze thick with wood smoke. Wet wool, and the ghost of sheep dung. You step onto the lane. Your boots catch a loose stone, and you wobble before righting yourself. Someone has been up already. There are footprints in the dew, wide ones. The cooper, probably. A cart rumbles somewhere nearby. A rooster struts past your gate like it owns the morning. To the left, the old bell tower casts a long, lopsided shadow across the thatched roofs. A dog barks once, then decides better of it. You walk slowly, one hand clutching the bread basket, the other tucking your shawl tighter. Down the lane, a pair of boys argue over a stick. A goose chimes in, uninvited, and is ignored. The blacksmith's wife nods at you, her hands already gray with soot. The wheelwright's yard smells of pine and pitch. A pig escapes briefly from the butcher's pen and waddles defiantly toward a puddle before being wrangled back inside. You don't laugh, but you almost do. For a second, the village feels alive, not just awake, and you remember why you never left. The mud, the noise, the clatter, it's all yours, even if none of it ever belonged to you. At the end of the lane sits the oven, a stone dome blackened with soot and secrets. It leans slightly to one side, as if burdened by its own memories. You approach with your basket tucked against your hip. A woman you vaguely recognize from feast days is already there, sliding her tray in with the grace of experience. She glances at you, nods once, then returns to her work. You wait. Everyone waits. There is a rhythm to this place. And today, you are not the drum. Finally, your turn arrives. You step forward and open the oven's mouth, releasing a puff of breath so warm it feels like being welcomed. You slide the loaves inside. One shifts slightly, but settles. You close the stone door. There is no timer, only instinct. You mark the sun's angle and trust your gut, like your mother did, and hers before her. The woman hums an old song as she walks away. You do not know the words, but they taste familiar. You adjust your shawl and turn back up the lane. A wind picks up, brushing your cheeks with ash and applewood. Back home, someone will need feeding, and the fire will need coaxing again. But for now, you walk slowly. The loaves are in. You did your part. The midday tasks. The sun isn't kind anymore. It leans overhead like a bossy steward, reminding everyone what still hasn't been done. The warmth from the morning hearth is gone, replaced by heat that clings to your shoulders, prickling your skin through coarse linen. You wipe your brow with the back of your hand. It comes away streaked with flour, ash, and sweat, a medieval badge of honor, if there ever was one. The path behind the house is now a trail of churned-up footprints. Your children's, your neighbor's goat, and a few you'd rather not guess at. In the distance, someone is yelling about chickens. The chickens do not care. Closer by, your neighbor's boy is attempting to fix a bucket using twine, spit, and optimism. You wish him well, but not out loud. You have your own problems. There's a pile of thatching that needs retying before the wind gets clever again, and a hen that insists her nest belongs behind your storage jar. You nudge the door open and step inside. The house smells like noon. Cooked leeks, wet wool, tired feet. It's familiar and unforgiving. You kneel beside the water barrel and check how much is left. Not much. Enough to get through today. Maybe. The thought of hauling another bucket from the well makes your knees preemptively ache. Still, you pick up the wooden ladle and drink deeply. It's not cool anymore, but it's water, and that's enough. You offer some to your youngest, who's crawling around with a string tied to one leg of a stool, his makeshift horse for the day. He giggles when the stool tips and bonks him on the head. He bonks it back. Stool and child reach an understanding. You envy that kind of diplomacy. In the corner, a small pile of beans waits to be shelled. You sit, settle into the task, and begin snapping them open. 1, 2, snap, drop. It becomes a rhythm. You almost forget the sun. Almost. Someone knocks. 3 sharp raps. Polite but urgent. You stand, brush stray bean skins from your tunic, and open the door. It's Marta, from 2 huts over. She holds a clay bowl covered with a cloth, and wears the expression of someone who needs a favor, but would rather eat ashes than admit it. You raise an eyebrow. "Do you still have salve?" she asks. You nod. Motion for her to come in. She doesn't. "It's not for me," she says. "Of course it isn't." You fetch the little jar from the top shelf. Goose fat, comfrey, crushed mint, an old recipe. It works, mostly because people believe it does. You hand it over. She doesn't thank you. She nods. Which is better? Before she leaves, she places the clay bowl in your hands. "Barley stew," she says. "With the good herbs." You nod back. You don't ask what the bad herbs are. Afternoon means tasks that can't be ignored any longer. You grab the small sickle and head to the back edge of your plot, where weeds grow like they're proud of themselves. It's not glamorous, but it's necessary. You slice them down one by one, grunting with each motion, sweat dripping from your brow into the dust below. A bee circles your head, considering you, then wisely moves on. Your neighbor's daughter waves as she passes, carrying a basket bigger than she is. You wave back with the sickle. She flinches. You remember not to do that next time. Inside again. The stew bubbles gently over the fire. It smells like someone else's cooking, which is always more comforting than your own. You check the loaf from earlier. It's ready, golden brown, cracked just enough on top to whisper, "Well done." You tear off a piece and dunk it into the stew. It burns your tongue. You eat it anyway. In the corner, the baby is asleep. For now, outside, the wind has picked up, scattering bits of straw across the lane. Your eldest returns with a triumphant grin and a suspiciously clean tunic. You ask no questions. He flops down beside you, takes the bread without asking, and eats with the desperation of youth. You don't scold him. You're too tired and proud, but mostly tired. As the sun begins to dip just slightly, you start your second round of sweeping. The dust doesn't care how many times it's been moved. A few villagers pass by your open door, nodding or muttering pleasantries. One pauses. "Big storm coming tomorrow," he says. You nod. Of course there is. You glance up at the sky, which is a perfect, lie-filled blue. Storms don't wait for clouds anymore. They just happen. You make a mental note to bring in the tools, tie down the wash line, and maybe, not definitely, fix the shutter that's been creaking for 3 days. You sit again, this time on the step. The sun is lower now. Its light feels gentler, less judgmental. A cat walks by, tail high, eyes half-lidded. It owns this place. You merely rent space in its kingdom. You sip the last of the water and listen. Chickens cluck. A door slams. Someone laughs. Not you. Not yet. But maybe after supper, you let your shoulders drop. Just for a moment. This is the pause between storms. The breath before evening. And it's yours. Just long enough to feel it. Just long enough to let it go. Evening. Chores and sunset glow. The sun begins to fall. Not suddenly, but like someone gently pulling a blanket over the sky. You notice it first in the way the shadows stretch. Long fingers reaching across the yard, curling around buckets and baskets like they're tucking them in for the night. The color of everything softens. Stone becomes rose. Dust turns gold. Even the mud brick walls blush a little in the glow. You roll your shoulders. They crackle like dry twigs. Evening chores wait for no one, not even you. First stop, the goats. They know the time better than you do. Their bleats begin like gossip. One voice, then another, until the whole pen sounds like a village council meeting. You open the gate and they jostle each other. Tiny horns bumping, hooves clicking on packed earth. You shake the grain bag. Instant silence. Respect, it seems, is stored in barley. You pour slowly, evenly. The goats huddle around it like monks around a shared scripture. You smile. A little, then move on. You fetch the milking stool and place it beside the eldest goat. She stares at you like you owe her money. You stare back. It's a long-standing agreement. She wins, as usual. You begin to milk. Slow, practiced motions. The sound is gentle. A soft rhythm of stream meeting pail. Over and over. Like rain into a hollow log. It's oddly calming, until a younger goat tries to climb your back. You hiss. The goat retreats, temporarily. Milk collected, hands wiped. You return to the house, setting the pail down just inside the door. The air inside is warmer now, heavy with the scent of roasted roots and the last embers of the cooking fire. A pot simmers gently. It's not fancy, but it's food. Your eldest is sweeping again, not because he was asked, but because he's decided it's his turn to be the clean one. Let him. You've stopped questioning minor miracles. You light the oil lamp. Its flame dances inside the clay bowl, casting soft shadows on the wall, wobbling halos around hanging bundles of herbs. Hooks, dried apples. The light is yellow and flickering, like the memory of sunlight. Your youngest crawls toward it. You scoop them up just in time. They squeal, then yawn. You hold them close. Their hair smells like dirt and sleep. You sway side to side. A lullaby hums in your throat. Not sung, not planned. Just there, like the crackle of the fire, like the creak of the shutter, like love before it had a name. Supper is shared quietly, a wooden bowl passed from hand to hand, bread broken, stew ladled, nothing wasted. No one speaks much, because everyone is here, because the food is warm, because the day is fading, and so are words. You let the moment settle, like dust, like peace. Then someone sneezes into the lentils, and the peace is over. You all laugh. It feels like permission. After supper, the house is quieter again. Dishes are rinsed in a basin, not scrubbed, just swirled and wiped and set upside down. You blow gently on the fire to coax it smaller. Not out, just shy. Embers blink back at you. In the corner, your partner is patching a sleeve with thread so uneven it looks like a caterpillar's dream. You don't comment. You simply watch, grateful. Outside, the last of the light slips below the tree line. A rooster gives one last confused crow. His schedule is flexible. The night wind arrives. It rustles the eaves, tiptoes through the open doorway, and sniffs around the hearth before settling beside your ankles. It smells of wood smoke, time, and the far-off river. You sit near the door, just a minute, just to feel it, because soon you'll need to shut it. Soon, the dark will press against the walls, and the cold will remind you that comfort is not guaranteed. But right now, this moment, it's still yours. You gather the children. The little one is already asleep. The older one protests. They always do. 5 more minutes. A tail, a rock that looks like a face. Eventually, they surrender. You help them climb onto the shared straw mat, tucking the coarse blanket around small shoulders. The mat crackles softly. One child murmurs. Another sighs. You place your hand on their heads, just briefly, and breathe. You return to your corner. Remove your belt. Untie the kerchief from your hair. Stretch toes and fingers until they pop like firewood. Your partner hands you a warm cloth. You wipe your face slowly. It smells faintly of mint. You nod your thanks. They nod back. You both sit, backs to the wall, eyes half-lidded. There is no more to say, and that's the best part. The lamp burns low. The fire whispers secrets to the ashes. Outside, the wind hums against the shutter. A dog barks once, far away, then nothing. You shift on the mat, find your favorite crease in the wall, and settle into the quiet. Tomorrow will come, like it always does, with chores, with dust, with surprises. But tonight, you sleep in a village that survived another day. You did your part. You made it through. If you're still with me, maybe leave a quiet good night in the comments. Or tell me, what would your favorite chore be in a place like this? Something warm, something quiet. You don't need a sundial to know it's midday. You feel it in your shoulders, in your boots, in the way the sunlight hits the back of your neck like a ladle of soup. The village slows down. The pace slows. Even the chickens stop bickering. They retreat under carts and shrubs. Wings drooped. Beaks half open. In the field, you rest your hoe against the trunk of a tree. An old thing, crooked as a question mark. You sit in its shade, not for comfort, just to stop sweating long enough to blink. From nearby, The old blacksmith's hammer pauses, a rare mercy. For 5 minutes, the village exhales, and you do too. Your neighbor walks past carrying a basket of herbs, muttering about picking in heat like a goat. You nod, too tired to reply. The sun crests the roof line of the mill house. You watch dust motes float like lazy spirits in the air. It is hot, and you still have half a day left. Return to the house. You head back to the house, not quickly. Your tunic clings to you like a jealous cat. At the doorway, your partner greets you with a nod and a damp cloth. It smells faintly of lavender and smoke. You press it to your neck. Relief blooms like a second sunrise. Inside, your children sit cross-legged on the floor, playing with carved wooden animals. A horse missing a leg, a pig that looks suspiciously like a shoe. Their laughter drifts through the dim room, cutting the heat like a fresh wind. You sit near them and peel off your sandals. One has a pebble inside. How long? Who knows? Your feet are pale, dust-lined, calloused like old maps. You lean back against the cool stone wall. The quiet is so complete. You can hear the sound of someone turning a page 2 homes away. You almost sleep. Almost. But then, wood piles low, says your partner. And just like that, you're vertical again. The wood and the well. You fetch a small hand axe and make your way to the wood pile. Most of it's already been picked over. What's left are crooked limbs and not heavy trunks. You pick one and begin. Chop, split, stack. The rhythm returns. Bird song mixes with axe thud. Then silence. Then again, a child sneezes behind you. You wave. Don't look back. They're fine. Just dusty. Later, you walk to the well, not the big town one. Just the shallow stone-ringed circle behind your house. You draw up the bucket. The rope groaning like a tired ox. Water sloshes. You pour some over your arms. Your skin steams slightly in the sun. The rest goes into a clay jug. You sip from it directly. It tastes like pebbles and sun, and something slightly green. Good enough. Around the courtyard. The courtyard bustles. Despite the heat, a woman with a wide-brimmed hat walks past balancing 2 baskets, one of eggs, the other of something squirming. You don't ask. Nearby, the tanner's apprentice lays out strips of hide. Flies swarm. He waves them away like thoughts he doesn't want to finish. Someone calls your name. You turn. It's Thomas, the village's semi-official baker and fully committed gossip. He offers a piece of flatbread, says he burned the rest. You accept it with a nod. It's slightly chewy. Perfect. He asks if you've heard about the chickens. You haven't. You don't want to, but he tells you anyway. Apparently, old Bruna's hens laid 4 green eggs this morning. Witchcraft, he whispers, too loudly. You chew slowly, then smile. Maybe they're just special chickens. He squints, then laughs, and wanders off. Lunch break and laughter. Lunch is not a feast, but it is warm. A stew, mostly turnip, with bits of salted meat, served in thick clay bowls. You eat on the doorstep, legs stretched into the sun. Your child sits beside you, chewing with both cheeks puffed. A neighbor walks by, carrying a bucket of weeds and whistling badly. You raise your bowl. He raises his bucket. The village's version of conversation. From across the path, someone plays a tune on a flute. Notes drift through the smoke and stew-scented air. The melody is clumsy, but familiar. A festival tune, but there is no festival. Just a spare moment, a memory in song form. You lean back, feeling the sun on your eyelids. The ache in your shoulders has dulled. The hunger in your stomach has paused. And for a rare moment, the village is quiet in the best possible way. No alarms, no shouts, no chores urgent enough to break the rhythm. Your partner squeezes your hand once. You squeeze back, no words, just understanding. And in the distance, Elda's hammer resumes. Tap, tap, tap. A heartbeat made of wood and work. Life continues. You sigh contentedly. Then, with a smirk, your child points to the stew and says, "This again?" You both laugh, because yes, it's always this, and somehow, that's just fine. The sun is high, too high, and you've finished lunch, but not the day. There is no nap, no siesta, just the next thing. Always the next thing. You're back in the field again. The same rows you left this morning. Now drier, meaner. The dirt cracks underfoot. Your hoe sinks in with less cooperation than before. Somewhere nearby, a donkey brays like it's been insulted. You don't blame it. Even the bugs seem annoyed. You lift the hoe, bring it down. Lift, bring down. Lift, bring down. Repeat until your shoulders hum like a distant wasp. Across the path, a group of teenagers is stacking bundles of wheat. They're half working, half joking. One tosses a sheaf too hard and gets chaff in his hair. Everyone laughs, even you. Then you go back to work, because your bundles are not going to stack themselves. A shadow falls over your row. You look up, not the sun, though it feels like it. It's the steward. He's dressed well, by village standards, at least. A cleaner tunic, sandals without holes, a leather pouch with a suspicious jingle. He's come to inspect, not the crop, the people. He asks how much you've harvested. You tell him. He nods slowly, like he doesn't believe you, but can't be bothered to argue. Then he mentions the tithe. It's due tomorrow. You knew that. But now, hearing it again, it presses on your ribs like a full sack of grain. You nod, say, "Yes, of course." He leaves without another word. You return to your hoe. It feels heavier now. You pause later in the afternoon to refill your water. This time, the main well, a circular stone basin, moss growing in the cracks. There's a line. Of course, 2 women ahead of you. One talks about her son, apprenticed to the miller now. The other shakes her head, says the miller's wife is ambitious, which in village speak means dangerous. They laugh like they didn't just say something sharp. You smile politely. When it's your turn, you lower the bucket slowly. Listen to the rope creak and splash. It's cooler here, stone all around. You want to stay, just a few minutes. But someone else is already behind you. So you drink, step aside, and walk back toward your plot. There's always something broken. A fence post listing like a drunk uncle. A corner of the chicken coop sagging from last week's storm. A bucket with a split in its side. You patch. You adjust. You repurpose. The village is held together by string and willpower. Your child runs past with a stick, pretending it's a sword. You remember being their age, barefoot, fast, invisible. Now you're visible, always visible. Expected. You rake out the animal stalls next. Not because it's urgent, but because if you don't, it will smell worse tomorrow. The goat watches you with narrowed eyes. She always does. She's judging your technique, and probably your parenting. You finish with the rake, wipe your brow, and go check the compost pile. Thrilling. A slow fly buzzes past your ear. You don't flinch, just mutter, "Same to you," and move on. By late afternoon, the light changes. It softens, just slightly. The village shifts. People walk slower. The children's yelling becomes less shrill. A dog naps in the shade of the bread oven. You sit by the corner of your house, back against the wall. For once, no one calls your name. You take a breath, then another. The jug beside you is half full. You drink slowly and let the silence hang, just long enough to hear your own thoughts. They are quiet, mostly just images of dirt rows, half-done repairs, the steward's pouch, your child's laugh. You smile and close your eyes for a second. That's all it takes. 1 second of stillness, of being nobody, of not harvesting, or patching, or feeding, or planning, just existing. Then a rooster crows like it's dawn again. You open your eyes, back to it, but a little lighter now, like someone ironed the ache out of your soul, just for a minute. And that's enough. The village doesn't sleep the way you'd imagine. Not completely, not all at once, not ever, even deep into the night. There are stirrings, rustles in the straw, the soft clink of a pot being shifted, a child murmuring in a dream, a distant cow bellowing at nothing in particular, and beneath it all, quiet breathing. So many people in one space. You wake before your body does. Your eyes open to blackness, but your limbs are hesitant. There's an ache in your shoulder, an itch near your ankle. You scratch both, then immediately regret it. The fleas are back. You sigh, quietly, because everyone else is still asleep, and sound travels in a house made of wood and wattle. You lie there for a moment, staring into nothing. The thatch above is invisible, but you can picture it. Uneven, dusty, with a spider or two claiming territory overhead. There's movement beside you, your partner, just shifting, not waking. You ease up from the mat. Careful, one wrong elbow and you'll wake the baby, and no one wants that. Your foot touches the floor. Cool, not cold. Just enough to make you wish you'd remembered to patch the hole in your sock. You creep past the children, over the creaking boards, through the curtain that separates sleeping from everything else. The hearth is low, but glowing. You add a small stick. It crackles like it's happy to be noticed. You crouch beside it, watch the glow deepen. Your fingers stretch toward the warmth. It's early still. You're not up because you have to be. You're up because this might be the only moment all day that belongs to you. So you take it. You sit beside the fire. Breathe in the char and ash and faint sweetness of old bread. And you listen to the stillness, to your own heart, to the wind teasing the shutters. You're not alone. Not really. There's always a sound, a presence. Even the mice in the wall know when you're awake. One scurries behind a beam. You don't flinch. You're used to it. Mice are part of the architecture now. You poke the fire again, this time, just for the sound. And in that rhythm, something loosens. A knot in your chest. Maybe, or the memory of a dream. You're not sure. Outside, the sky is just beginning to lift. Not light yet, just less dark. You stand and stretch, arms high. One foot pops. It always does. You smile. It's a familiar soundtrack. You gather the first things, a pot, the cloths, your little bone comb, and the bucket with the cracked rim. They're not glamorous, but they're yours. You open the door gently. The morning greets you with a chill and a hush. It's a gray-blue world, soft around the edges. The chickens are still roosting. The sheep are tucked under that odd lean-to with the uneven posts. And the well waits, stoic, solid, and always just a little farther away than you want it to be. You walk slowly. Your sandals scuff the dirt path. A rooster mutters in its sleep. Somewhere, a man coughs. You draw water. The bucket creaks as it descends. The splash below is distant, hollow, and a little smug. You haul it up, elbows pulling, back straining. It's heavier today. Or maybe you're just still waking. You bring it inside, set it on the bench with a sigh. You start the daily rhythm, washing hands, wiping surfaces, rekindling the hearth with more wood. The rest of the house is beginning to stir. Someone turns in their blanket. A small voice whispers a name. You pour a little water into the iron pot. Add a pinch of grain. Let it sit. Let it think about becoming breakfast. The baby wakes. You hear it before you see it. A short, surprised squeak. Then a full declaration of discomfort. You scoop them up before it becomes an area. They're warm and heavy and smell faintly of goat. You bounce once, twice, whisper nonsense, and eventually they settle. Your partner appears in the doorway, hair tousled, eyes not yet ready for the day. They nod. You nod back. It's enough. You trade the baby for a bowl. They begin stirring the pot. You start arranging things. Cloths, spoons, the bread from yesterday that still has one soft corner. The morning builds slowly, like a melody with no instruments, just breath and warmth and footsteps. The others emerge, sleepy, hungry, quiet at first, then louder. You pass bowls, share slices, answer questions, solve disputes over who got the longer piece. And somewhere in the chaos, you find your smile again. Not wide, not showy, just there. Because this is your day beginning. Again, and for a few minutes, it's enough. You wake the next day to a rhythm, not music, just life. The thud of feet on packed dirt, the distant creak of a door, the snort of something large and displeased, and most of all, the rooster. Again, not yours, but he takes his job seriously, and very personally. You sigh, because it's not quite dawn, but also because that rooster sounds like it's holding a grudge. You sit up slowly, spine cracking like old parchment. The air is cold enough to make your teeth feel thoughtful. You wrap the cloak tighter and shuffle toward the fire pit. It's not lit. Of course it's not lit. No one else is up. So, as usual, it's up to you. You fumble with the kindling. The straw is damp again, even though you swore it was dry when you laid it out. The flint misses 3 times before sparking, then again before catching. You breathe into it like it's a secret. Finally, a lick of flame. Small, shy, but promising. And suddenly you feel like a wizard. A very sleepy, mildly grumpy wizard of embers and ash. The warmth crawls outward, slow as morning itself. You settle onto the stool with your bowl of leftovers, mostly oats, partly mystery. You chew thoughtfully, or at least quietly. You listen. There's a softness to the village right now. A breath held. A moment balanced on the edge of what's next. You take another bite. Then the door creaks. Someone else has risen. You don't turn, because you already know the sound of their walk, the way they pause to scratch their elbow, the way they cough like they're blaming the cold. You sip your drink and nod as they pass. No need for words. The day is beginning. Again. Soon, the little house fills with motion, the shuffling of boots, the rustle of tunics pulled over sleepy heads. You help the youngest find their other shoe, which somehow ended up on a shelf again. You remind the eldest to actually eat something before running out the door, and you stand at the threshold, just watching for a moment. The world beyond your doorway looks grayer than usual, and wetter. Rain has arrived, not dramatic, just steady, persistent, like a neighbor who borrows your tools and always returns them a bit rustier. You sigh again, then pull on your hood, because chores don't care about the weather. At the field, the mud is already doing its best impression of soup. Your boots sink in with each step. There's a resigned ballet to it now. 1 foot in, pause, twist, pull, forward, repeat. The others are already here, some with covered heads, some without. Everyone is damp. No one is surprised. The apprentice raises a hand in greeting. You raise a brow. That's enough. He's trying to chase a goose out of the grain shed. The goose disagrees with this plan. You watch. He lunges. The goose flaps. There's a squawk, and then he stumbles backward, tripping into a barrel with a splash. You don't laugh, but you do smile. He deserves that much. You take your station at the wall. Today, you're patching the low edge where water keeps leaking in. The stones are cold. The mud is cold. Your fingers are cold, but your mind is oddly warm, because this is familiar. This is yours. Even the discomfort has a rhythm. Even the rain has a song. You scrape old thatch away and wedge in new. You test it. It holds, mostly, close enough. You glance up and catch sight of the dog again. The one with the crooked tail and the eyes like he's judging you. He's sitting just beyond the fence, watching, always watching. You nod. He doesn't nod back, but you like to think he meant to. By midday, the rain becomes a drizzle, which, in this village, is practically sunshine. People begin peeling back hoods, lifting faces to the gray, and someone, somewhere, starts humming again. Same song as yesterday, different tune. You hum along, off-key and proud, because this is what the day is for. Not grand events, not epic quests, just mud, and fence posts, and geese that believe in vengeance. Back at home, the fire is still glowing. The air inside smells like smoke and onions and something slightly burnt but still edible. You dry your boots near the coals. You wring out your cloak. You settle into the wooden stool that creaks exactly once every time you sit. Dinner is quiet. Simple. A stew of many things and no names. You eat slowly. The room warms. Someone mentions that the festival is coming. You nod. You always nod, even when you forget what they're talking about. You glance at the ceiling beams. They'll need patching before winter. You add it to the list that lives in your spine more than your memory, because that's what it means to keep a place standing. You mend, you feed, you listen, you carry. Then you sleep, and then you do it again. The wind shifts, just enough to make the reed mat rattle against the wall. You close your eyes. You let it pass, because tomorrow is waiting. You wake to the smell of smoke. Not fire, just breakfast. Barely. Someone has burned the oats again. You can tell by the way no one mentions it. You sit up slowly. Your back feels like an old scroll, creased, brittle, and slightly unreadable before noon. You shuffle to the hearth, still rubbing sleep from your eyes. A bowl is handed to you without a word. You take it. You eat, because this is how mornings begin, with warmth and quiet and a hint of charcoal. You stir the oats twice before tasting. Still too hot, still too bitter, but it sits heavy in the belly, and that's what matters today. The air outside is damp, but not wet, like the sky tried to rain but forgot how. You step out and stretch, arms high, spine cracking, breath slow. The village feels paused, not asleep, not busy, just waiting. For what? No one knows. You grab your sack and begin walking, not because you're needed, but because something always needs mending. That's the rule. If nothing's broken, you just haven't looked hard enough. You pass the same crooked gate you've straightened 5 times. It leans again, mocking you. Perhaps, but you smile anyway, because persistence is funnier than pride. At the edge of the barley field, you spot the cart again, the one with the cracked wheel that everyone avoids repairing. Today, it's your turn to ignore it. You pass by, but not without a glance. You suspect you'll fix it by next week, or someone will trip over it, and then it'll be urgent. That's how most things become important here, accidentally. You head toward the goat pen. One of them, Junia, the smart one, is already halfway out. You sigh. She stares at you like she planned it all night. You open the gate fully and let her strut past. She knows she's won. You follow, burrs and all. The sun threatens to appear, not shine, just peek, like a shy guest at the edge of a celebration. You sit on a stone wall and drink from your flask. It's cooler than you'd like, but it's water, and that's enough. Someone tosses you a plum. You catch it, barely. Take a bite. It's sour, but not bad. You don't complain, because you remember a summer where there were no plums at all. Just dried roots and a lot of pretending. A bee hovers near your hand. You don't flinch. You let it decide. It moves on. You feel oddly respected. The apprentice joins you for a while. He says nothing. Neither do you. But the silence feels shared, not empty. The elder walks past with a basket of carrots. You nod. They nod. No one speaks. They haven't since the goose incident. Which, to be fair, wasn't really your fault. You didn't train the goose. You just fed it once, maybe twice, and now it guards your door like a feathered demon with trust issues. But at least it keeps the apprentice away. So, fair trade. You spend the next hour repairing a broken gate near the well. 2 hinges missing, one rusted nearly flat. You wedge the bottom one into place with a stick, a prayer, and more confidence than skill. It holds. That's enough. The baker's child brings you a crusty end of bread as thanks. You nod. They beam. It's still warm. Oh, you stop by the well before heading home. There's a line. There's always a line, but no one minds. The well is where stories are traded. Not loud ones, just murmurs. A new calf, a sore tooth. Someone saw a fox near the baker's coop. You listen. You nod. You store it all away. Because knowing things is half the work. The other half is pretending you didn't. Back at home, the children are building a fort from firewood and wishful thinking. You admire their optimism and their poor architectural sense. One log rolls away, nearly crushing a toe. They laugh anyway. You laugh too. Because the only thing stronger than wood around here is willpower. And maybe that goose. You help them reinforce one wall. It doesn't help, but they cheer. And somehow, that matters more than the structure. Dinner is quiet again. The food is slightly less burnt than this morning. You consider that a sign of progress, or luck. You eat slowly. Let the warmth fill the cracks in your bones. The fire pops once, like punctuation. Someone hums. You recognize the melody. A song about harvest, and waiting, and the moon forgetting to rise. You hum along because it helps the stew go down. Later, you check the door latch twice before bed. It's fine. It always is. You still check. Habit isn't about fear. It's about rhythm. You lie down. The cot creaks. So does your knee. A breeze slips through the shutter. Cool. Clean. Faintly mossy. You close your eyes. And for a moment, just a moment, you wonder what tomorrow will bring. Then you stop wondering, because here, tomorrow brings itself. You wake before the light, not because you want to, because the roof drips. Again, the same spot, always that spot. It hits the floor with the precision of a drum beat. Slow, deliberate, and slightly mocking. You lie still, counting each drop. You think about getting up. Then the rooster makes the decision for you. He screams like it's his life's purpose, which, in a way, it is. You roll over. The drip continues. So does the rooster. You lose. Outside, the village is still wrapped in blue, the kind of blue that happens before sun, before fire, before thought. You walk carefully. Mud from yesterday hasn't dried. It never really does this time of year. Your boots squelch in quiet protest. The dog with the crooked tail trots past. He doesn't greet you. He's busy, probably judging someone, probably you. You head toward the field. There's no real plan, but you bring a spade anyway, because plans change, and tools help. At the edge of the rye patch, you find the fence again, still standing, barely. The apprentice tied it with what looks like hope and regret. You crouch, pull the knot, retie it tighter. Your fingers are cold, but they remember the motion. Next to you, a slug is making heroic progress across a stone. You nod to it. It does not respond. Still, you feel understood. You wipe your hands, stretch your back, and move on. You leave the slug to its journey. You have your own. The baker's child runs past, chasing a chicken. It's not their chicken, but they have a complicated relationship. You watch the chase weave through puddles, carts, and one very confused pig. Eventually, the chicken wins. As it always does, the child sulks. You hand them a dried plum from your pocket. They brighten. You suspect that's why you carried it, even if you didn't know it yet. Back at the well, a crowd has gathered, which, in this village, means 4 people and a goat. They're arguing, gently, about nothing urgent. The sky, the smell of the apples this year, whether the priest's new robe looks more blue or more faded. You add a comment, then take it back, then offer a new one that's slightly funnier. It lands, a smile, a small one, but still, the goat sneezes. Everyone laughs. Even the sky seems lighter. You head to the woodshed next, because the door sticks, because the roof sags, because it's yours, and it's what you do. The latch fights you. The wood groans. You enter like a negotiator, not an owner. Inside, stacked timber, spiders, and a smell like last winter. You pull down the sagging beam, support it with bricks and caution. It holds. For now, outside, the wind shifts. Not harsh, just reminding that colder days are coming, that firewood becomes memory. Fast. By midday, your hands are covered in dust. The good kind. Proof of effort. Proof of presence. Someone brings stew. You share it on a flat stone near the fence. It's hot, salty, full of things with names you've stopped asking. A bee hovers again. Maybe the same one. Maybe a cousin. It circles your bowl, decides you're boring, and leaves. You feel oddly validated. The rest of the day unspools like yarn. Slow, tangled, predictable in all the best ways. The children build again, this time a cart with no wheels. You watch them debate axle length with the seriousness of philosophers. Someone offers you cider. You decline, but they leave it anyway. It sits by your elbow, warm, sticky, sincere. You'll drink it later, probably. Evening comes quietly. The light softens. Voices fade into murmurs. Someone sings again. An old song, slightly off-key. You hum along. The last nail in your hand falls into the dirt. You don't pick it up. Not now. Maybe tomorrow. You walk home slow, back sore, heart steady. The goose nods at you as you pass. You nod back. There's an understanding. No need for words. You open the door, step inside. The fire is already lit. You weren't the first home. And somehow, that feels like a gift. You sit by the fire and take off your boots. They sigh. You do, too. The cloak comes off next. Then the weight in your shoulders. Then the day. It slips away without protest. Outside, the rain begins again. Not heavy. Just enough to remind the roof who's boss. You listen to it, tap in the corner, still that same spot. You could fix it tomorrow, or not. Some things are meant to be familiar. Even the leaks. You lie down. The cot creaks. The rooster sleeps. Finally, and so do you. The rooster doesn't crow this morning, not because he's tired, because the rain is louder. It began sometime in the night. Now it drums on every surface. Roof, bucket, stone, skin. You listen from bed, eyes still closed. Each drop sounds like it's deciding something. You pull the blanket closer, but your feet are already cold. They always find the gap. Always. You sit up slowly, careful not to shift too fast. The cot creaks. Your spine protests. The roof leaks in 2 places. No one fixes it yet. No one ever does when it rains, because the sound becomes part of the day, a rhythm, a reason to slow down. You shuffle to the door. Push it open with your shoulder. The hinges groan like old men with better things to do. The air smells like damp straw and old soil. You step out barefoot. The mud greets you like an old friend who hugs too long. You bring the stool inside, the one from the yard. It's wet. You wipe it with your sleeve and set it near the fire. Someone will sit there soon. Someone always does. Today might be a mending day. You gather your tools. Coarse thread, bent needle, a shirt with more holes than cloth. You don't rush. The rhythm matters more than the result. Each stitch is a heartbeat, each patch a memory. You hum as you work, an old lullaby your mother used to sing. You don't remember the words, just the shape of them. Outside, a chicken has taken shelter under the eaves. She looks indignant. You offer her half a crust. She takes it without thanks. Typical. A child knocks. No urgency, just curiosity. They want to know if you've ever seen a frog sneeze. You say no, but you'd like to. They run off before you can ask why. You smile at the empty doorway and keep stitching. The shirt is almost wearable again. Almost. By midday, the rain becomes a mist. Not dry, not wet, just indecisive. You pull on your old cloak and step outside again. It smells like crushed grass and ash. You head toward the shed, because yesterday's wind knocked something over. You don't know what yet, but you'll find out. The shed leans like a man with a secret. Inside, a broken broom, 2 jars of nails, a mouse's nest in your old boot. You sweep gently, so as not to offend the spider in the corner. It watches you with ancient judgment. You nod, as one elder to another. You patch the window with a bit of oiled cloth. It'll hold. For today, near the firewood pile, something catches your eye. The small tree, planted last year, is leaning toward the path. You try to straighten it, but the roots have decided otherwise. You whisper to it, ask it to be patient. Trees never answer, but they remember. Back inside, the hearth has gone lazy. You feed it a few twigs, then a log. It yawns into flame. Lunch is experimental. You toss in what's left of the turnips, some herbs, a suspicious carrot, and a handful of barley. You stir it clockwise, always clockwise. A knock. The neighbor with the limp. He smells like wet wool and old apples. You pour him a bowl. He says it tastes like memory. You're not sure if that's a compliment. He hums a song between sips. You join in. 2 voices off-key but honest. The children peek in, giggle, then vanish again. You keep singing, because the soup needs time, and silence feels too sharp today. You ladle out a bowl for yourself. Hot, murky, not bad. You dip your bread. It disintegrates. Still counts as lunch. The rain returns. Soft, constant, forgiving. You sit on the stool you brought in earlier, the one you dried by the fire. It's warm now. You stretch your legs. The dog curls at your feet, the one who isn't yours, but visits like he is. Outside, the world blurs. The garden disappears behind a curtain of gray. You hear a goat complain in the distance. Probably Junia again. She hates wet hooves. The fire pops. You rest your head back against the wall. Close your eyes. Someone whistles. The tune is old. You've forgotten the name, but not the shape. A child drops a pebble in your lap, says it's magic. You don't argue, because maybe it is. They leave before you can thank them. You keep the pebble in your hand, like an anchor, like a story. Tomorrow will come, but not yet, not now. Now there is only this room, this rain, and your breath. Slow, steady, almost still, you wake to stillness. No rain, no rooster, no children shrieking about missing boots or imaginary battles. Just a silence so deep it feels borrowed. You sit up slowly, stretch. The cot creaks like it's not quite ready for today either. Outside the window slit, the sky is gray. Not storm gray, not dawn gray, just the kind of blankness that makes a time feel optional. You open the door. The air is thick with quiet. A leaf drifts past without hurry. A chicken blinks at you from the step. It doesn't cluck. You don't speak. Together, you agree. Maybe today can wait a little. You step out anyway, because waiting is still movement if your feet are muddy. Your soles sink into the path. Pale puddles reflect nothing but the vague smear of sky. The frost from last night is melting slowly. It leaves the grass bowed like it's been praying too long. You carry a basket, empty, for now. It gives you an excuse to wander, to check fences, to greet hedges, to nod at bees like they owe you rent. Your path loops past the grain store. The latch is broken again. You wedge it shut with a stick and an old coin. The coin is Roman, or so the elder says. You doubt that, but it's round, metal, and stubborn. So it fits in just fine. You adjust the thatch near the edge of the roof line. There's always a loose strand, always a bird eyeing it. A girl follows you for 3 steps, then pretends she wasn't. You don't call her out. Instead, you drop a small apple on the trail behind you. She takes it, smiles, then vanishes into the woodpile like she's part squirrel. That's the game. Unspoken gifts. Invisible thank yous. You scratch a mark into the post by the path. Not a tally. Just a reminder. Something passed here, and it mattered, even if you forget why. At the edge of the square, you hear the clatter, wheels, and a voice not shaped like any local's. You turn. A cart, covered in oilcloth, drawn by a donkey with no tail. The man driving it has shoes that haven't seen mud in weeks. He waves, not casually, professionally. You nod, just once. That's enough to mean, we see you, but not yet. The cart settles near the well. The man starts unloading. Laces, brass pins, a tin mirror. Something that looks suspiciously like dried figs. A traveling peddler. Haven't had one since spring. Someone whispers about salt. Someone else whispers about scandal. The priest stands nearby pretending not to look. Arms folded like he's protecting doctrine from temptation. You say nothing, but you watch, especially the mirror. You haven't seen your whole face in a year. It's always just pieces, reflected in spoons, or puddles, or a kettle lid. If it's not too sooty, you step closer, not too close. The mirror winks in the light, and for a moment, you see yourself, and someone else. Then both vanish in a blink. You walk away without buying anything, but you leave with more than you came. The mirror isn't magic, just honest. And today, that's enough. Back at home, the stew waits. Well, the pot waits. The stew has to be coaxed into existence. You chop slowly. Roots. A sprig of wild herb. 2 potatoes from the bottom of the sack. They've sprouted, but they're still food. You peel gently, like you're revealing something ancient and slightly amused. The fire takes its time lighting. That's fine. You're not rushing. Stew isn't stew until it's forgotten how it started. You hum, a tune older than the cottage, older than the path to the well. It was sung during harvests and during sieges. It was hummed during plagues and while waiting for goats to give birth. History isn't scrolls or kings. It's hands and heat and remembering that soup is never just soup. You add salt, not too much. The stew doesn't need drama, just patience. You ladle it into a shallow clay bowl, the kind with a chipped rim and no pedigree, but it fits your hands like a memory. Evening folds itself gently around the village, like a shawl drawn close but not tight. You sit on the steps. The same chicken is back. She seems less philosophical now, probably hungry. You offer her a crust. She takes it, nods, leaves. The children are drawing in the mud again, a game about monsters and invisible treasure. You watch them bury a rock like it's sacred. It probably is. You sip something warm, herbal, bitter, grounding. The priest walks by, nods at your cup. You offer it. He declines. Too worldly, he says. You both laugh. He trips on a root. Everyone pretends not to see. That's grace in its village form. You scratch the chicken behind the wing. She tolerates it, then struts off like a duchess. You head inside, close the door softly. The fire's still warm. The cot waits. And tomorrow? Tomorrow can knock. But it'll have to wait its turn. You wake before the sky shifts color. The air is cooler this morning. Not cold, but expectant. The kind of chill that clings to your sleeves and smells faintly of turning earth. You reach for your cloak without thinking. It's still damp where the hood folds. Outside, mist hangs low like a secret, blurring the line between field and forest. You step out quietly, boots squishing in dew-heavy mud. The chicken doesn't greet you today. She's busy scratching something urgent from beneath the woodpile. You pass without comment. She doesn't notice, or pretends not to. It's that kind of morning. Slow, sideways, soft. Your fingers find the handle of the well bucket. Cool, smooth, familiar. You draw water in slow rhythm. The pulley creaks once, then falls silent again. You carry the bucket back without spilling, barely. Inside, the fire grumbles back to life with coaxing. A breath, a spark, a small surrender. You set the kettle on, not for tea, just to warm the air, because the chill isn't leaving on its own. You sit by the hearth, wrapping your hands around the steam. The warmth creeps up your wrists, gentle as a cat. Outside, the village is stirring. You hear footsteps, a shutter creaking open, the dull thunk of a door wedge settling into dirt. You slice bread, 2 pieces, one for now, one for someone who might come. Bread like this doesn't last long, stale by sundown, gone by dusk. Still, it softens if you hold it near the steam. You do, because it's a small comfort, because your jaw already remembers yesterday's crust. The table creaks when you lean. Everything creaks today. You eat in silence, except for the soft sip of breath between bites. You pause once, halfway through, listening. But the sound you thought you heard wasn't there, or it was, and didn't want to be caught. You finish the slice anyway, and set the other on the sill, wrapped in cloth. In case someone needs it more, someone always does. You head to the tool shed again, because something in the gate groaned yesterday, and groaning gates mean future problems. You bring a hammer, twine, an old nail you saved because it looked interesting. The shed smells like old bark and older secrets. You step around the rake, the one that bites ankles. Your fingers brush against the dusty jar of beeswax. You take it. It helps with hinges and lips and leather that forgot how to bend. At the gate, you crouch. You listen. You prod. The hinge sighs dramatically. You smile. Then you work, not loudly, not quickly, just steadily. By the time the sun burns away the mist, the gate opens quieter, not silent, but better. You close it, open it, close it again. There's something satisfying about small victories that no one sees. They last longer because no one tries to improve them again. The market today is smaller than usual. 3 stalls, 1 cart, and a boy trying to trade frogs for plums. You admire the spirit. You nod at the baker. She's selling yesterday's bread as today's discount. Smart woman. You barter for onions. Trade a spool of dyed thread for 2. She throws in a sprig of thyme. Claims it's for luck. You tuck it into your cloak. You never say no to luck or to thyme. A pot clanks behind you. The fishmonger sets up late. His catch smells honest. Salt and scales and morning river. You help him lift a basket. He grunts thanks. You don't ask about the limp. He doesn't mention the bruise. This is how things are here. You trade weight, not words. You walk back home with arms full. Your boots trail small pieces of hay and thyme behind you. A breadcrumb trail for a story no one's following yet. Afternoon settles like a cat in a warm patch of sun. You sit on the low wall by your door, the one with the crack that looks like a crooked smile. Children pass, arguing about dragons again. You suggest they check the well. They gasp, run, laughing. You sip from your cup. Water, warm. No herbs, just clean. You watch a cloud drift overhead. It looks like a loaf of bread. Or maybe that's your stomach talking. You turn the thyme over in your fingers. Still fragrant, still green. You set it on the window ledge beside the wrapped bread. Both gifts, both symbols, both perishable. You hum a line from a harvest song. It has no words, just shape. Someone joins in from the next cottage. Off-key, brave, you keep humming. Because it's enough. Because it means the day isn't done. Not yet. The mist is gone now. But the quiet remains. And in this kind of quiet, even your heartbeat sounds like history. The sun filters through the shutters in quiet slats of light. Not warm yet, but promising. You stretch slowly, back arching like a cat waking on a windowsill. The blanket slips to the floor. You let it go. Your toes find the worn wood, cold but not unfriendly. The coals in the hearth are gray, but not dead. You nudge them with the iron poker. A flicker answers. Small, stubborn. You add kindling, just enough to make the room exhale. The smell of ash rises, mingled with something faintly sweet. Maybe the thyme from yesterday, or maybe memory. You stand for a moment, letting the fire grow. Today feels slower, like a page that doesn't want to turn, but eventually will. The floorboards creak under your feet as you move toward the cupboard. You know which one will stick. It always does. The latch catches like a held breath. Inside, 1 apple, 2 dried roots, half a wedge of cheese with a determined personality. You take the cheese, slice it thin, let it melt on a crust over the new flame. Breakfast isn't elegant, but it works, and the smell draws a nose around the doorway. The neighbor's dog, not yours, never yours, but loyal to crumbs and kindness. You toss a piece of crust toward the floor. He pretends not to notice until it lands, then snatches it like it was earned. Outside, the chickens mutter, the kind of muttering that implies unpaid labor. You promise them nothing, and step outside anyway. The well rope is stiff today. You pull slow, hand over hand, until the bucket emerges, wet, cold, and heavier than usual. You pour carefully, first into the trough for the hens, then into your own basin. The water glints in the sun, pretending to be more than it is. You wash your face, your hands, the back of your neck, The water doesn't care how tired you are. It just works. You breathe in through your nose. The air smells like iron and pine. Somewhere, someone is chopping wood. The rhythm of it filters through the village. You can tell who it is by the tempo. It's old Bron from 2 houses down. He always misses the third beat. You dry your face with a square of cloth that used to be part of a curtain, repurposed like everything else. You smile, because nothing here goes to waste, not even rhythm. The field path is muddy, but not impassable. You walk with your weight over your heels, a trick passed down by someone's great uncle, probably made up, but it works. You're heading to the far fence, the one with the slanted post and the thorn bush too stubborn to die. Your hands brush the tall grass. It's damp, fragrant, and full of spider threads. You avoid most of them. At the fence, you pause. It still leans, still sighs when the wind pushes. You tie a new rope along the beam, then a second one. It holds. You don't test it further. A cart rolls by on the high road, barely visible through the hedgerow. You glimpse a blue cloth fluttering on the back. Someone's cloak? Someone's laundry? Either way, it looks out of place, but you don't chase it. Some mysteries are meant to stay on the road. You turn back toward the village. The path feels shorter now, but wetter, always wetter on the way home. Afternoon settles gently, like a shawl falling across your shoulders. You sit on the stone outside your door. It's warmer now, the kind of warm that makes you drowsy. A bee passes close, ignores you, and moves on. The dog reappears. He sits, silent, expectant. You break the last of the cheese into 2 pieces, one for each of you. He accepts without thanks, but stays. The wind picks up a little, tugging at your cloak. You watch the children down by the stream. They've built a bridge of sticks and shoes. It's doomed. They know it. You know it. Still, they cheer when it holds for a moment, then laugh when it falls. One sings a song about pirates. Another corrects the lyrics. Neither stops. The priest walks past again, this time with a book. He doesn't see you. You let him pass in peace. The fire inside crackles once, calling you. Maybe. Or just reminding you it's still there. You rise. Step inside. Close the door behind you. Outside, the sun begins to slide. Inside, the warmth waits, and the stillness welcomes you back. The wind wakes before you do. It rattles the shutters gently, like a polite guest who still insists on being noticed. You lie there a moment, blanket pulled high, trying to guess the hour by the light on the wall. Dim, uncommitted. You swing your legs off the cot. The floor is colder than you hoped, but not enough to curse. You move to the door and peek out. Clouds, thick and slow, the kind that forget how to rain. You stretch once, twice, then throw on your outer tunic. Wool, coarse, slightly damp where the fire didn't reach. Outside, the village is quieter than usual. People feel wind like animals do, in their backs, in their elbows. You do too. Today, you'll work indoors. Probably, unless something breaks, something always does. You tend to the fire first. It sulks. You nudge it gently. Dry kindling, breath, a few murmured promises. It relents. Eventually, you set water on to boil. Not for tea yet, just because steam makes the cottage feel less empty. The shelves creak as you move along them. Clay pots, bundles of herbs, a bowl of eggs you forgot about. One of them wobbles. You catch it just in time. Small victories. You stir the coals again. The hearth was built 3 generations ago by someone with crooked stones and good intentions. It's held ever since. You press your hand to its edge. Warm, solid, familiar. The dog curls in the corner. You hadn't noticed him come in. He does that. just appears, tail tucked, like a breath turning solid. You sort through the basket near the door. It holds everything and nothing. A scrap of blue cloth, 2 buttons, a feather. You find your needle, thread it carefully. The hem of your sleeve has started to unravel. You sew with short, steady stitches. Not perfect, but honest, the kind that hold. You glance up once to see the rooster peering in through the gap, judging you, or just wondering if you've dropped food. You haven't. He leaves in disgust. You smile. Your needle keeps moving. Outside, someone is hammering again. You can tell by the rhythm. It's not brawn this time. Too even. Too precise. Probably the smith's daughter. She's better with tools than her father ever was. Not that he minds. You finish the hem. Tie it off. Bite the thread. Then look up. The dog is asleep. The fire hums, and the wind has finally stopped knocking. You venture outside mid-morning. The wind has mellowed, or wandered off to bother someone else. You carry a broom, not because the yard needs sweeping, but because it gives your hands something to do. You brush leaves toward the fence. They resist. Dance away, return, pretend it's a game. You let them win. A neighbor waves from across the lane. You wave back. No words, none needed. A child runs past, arms out like wings, chasing nothing, becoming something. You stand still as they pass. The moment ripples, then smooths. You kneel beside the herb patch. The sage needs trimming. You work slowly, not for the plants, but for the rhythm. Cut, gather, breathe. The wind lifts again, carries the scent of sheep. Someone's flock is nearby, or someone forgot to close a gate. Either way, it's their story now. You press the bundle of sage to your nose. Smells like dust, summer, and old prayers. You tuck it into your pocket. The sky shifts color by afternoon, from gray to something less certain, the kind of color that painters argue about. You sit on the bench outside. The wood is rough but known. The dog joins you. He places his chin on your boot like punctuation. The children have vanished again. The silence feels wide, but not empty. A crow lands nearby, cocks its head, decides you're unimportant, flies off. You sip warm broth from a wooden cup. It's thin, but familiar. Sometimes warmth is enough. You lean back. The sun almost peeks out, then reconsiders. You hum a song from long ago, not for anyone, just to remember the shape of it. Inside, the fire crackles again. You let it. You'll return to it soon. For now, the bench is enough. The wind returns, softer this time, carrying the smell of something baking, far away. You close your eyes, and for a moment, forget what you meant to do next. The evening deepens, not dark yet, just stretched, like a blanket being pulled gently across the sky. You open the door slowly, not because it squeaks, but because it feels like the kind of night that deserves softness. The air smells of damp earth and wood smoke, and bread. Someone's baking again. Maybe the widow with the white cat. Maybe the boy who claims he can't cook but always makes too much. You don't investigate. Some mysteries are better left warm and unsolved. You step outside. The dog follows. Paws silent on packed dirt. You both pause, listening. Somewhere, an owl speaks. Somewhere farther, something answers. The dog tilts his head. You nod once, even if you don't understand the words. You light the lantern by touch. Wick, twist, strike. It catches on the second try, always the second. You carry it out to the gate, letting the light pool at your feet like honey. The road is empty, but the wind says it won't be forever. The fields are sleeping now, barley blades curled in toward root. The fence you repaired last week still leans slightly. like it's pretending not to ask for more help. You pat it once on the post. Tomorrow, maybe. Tonight, it can rest. So can you. You sit by the gate, back against the beam, and let the lantern flicker beside you. The dog curls at your hip. Together, you wait for nothing, and find everything. You think of the village, of all its doors and voices and firelit rooms, of the woman who whistles to her goat, of the boy who keeps a frog in a clay cup, of the man who fixes shoes, but only after dusk. All still awake, probably, doing the things that make the village itself. One cup of broth, one stubborn hinge, one wordless nod at a time. You remember what the elder once said, when his beard was black and his voice still sharp. History isn't made in scrolls. It's made in habits. You didn't understand then. You do now. The dog shifts beside you. You reach down, scratch behind his ear. He grunts approval. The stars begin to peek through. A few at first, then more, like brave children emerging from behind curtains. You go back inside. Close the door softly. The fire has found its rhythm. You stir the coals. Add a piece of wood, not too thick, just enough to stretch the warmth until sleep finds you. You sit on the stool by the hearth, the same one your mother sat on when she twisted yarn by hand, the same one her mother sat on, probably, when spinning stories with her fingers. You run your hand along the worn edge. It remembers more than you do. You pour the last of the warm broth into a cup. Cradle it. Sip slowly. Nothing in the room speaks, but everything listens. You reach for the bundle of herbs on the shelf. Crush a few between your palms. Sage, lavender, mint, a blend to ease the breath. You set it in a clay bowl near the fire. Let it release its scent without being asked. That's enough. You lie down. The cot welcomes you like an old friend, uneven, familiar, willing to hold your weight without complaint. The blanket smells of smoke and time. Your fingers trace the pattern in the weave. A loop here, a snag there. You close your eyes. The fire cracks once. The wind hushes at the shutter like it's saying goodnight too. You breathe in, slow, deep, once for the earth, once for the hearth, once for the space between. Outside, the owl sings again. Inside, nothing moves, but everything rests. The dog sighs, a sound of pure surrender. You whisper into the stillness. Good night, and somewhere beyond the field, beyond the path, beyond the fence that almost leans, a new story waits to be told. Next time, perhaps, we'll visit the city with no moon, or the monastery that brewed dreams into ink. But not tonight. Tonight belongs to quiet, and to you,